This type of erroneous conclusion affects audit efficiency as it would usually lead to additional work to establish that that the internal conclusions were incorrect, that the initial conclusions were incorrect. तो अगर आप बोलोगे कि कंट्रोल्स इफेक्टिव ही नहीं है जब एक्चुअली इफेक्टिव है, आप बोलोगे मटेरियल स्टेटमेंट एग्जिस्ट कर रहा है व्हेन इन फैक्ट इट डज नॉट, तो एरोनियस कंक्लूजन इफेक्ट करेगा हमारे ऑडिट एफिशिएंसी. क्यों? कि इट वुड यूजुअली लीड टू एडिशनल वर्क टू एस्टैब्लिश दैट इनिशियल कंक्लूजन्स वर इनकरेक्ट. दिस इज बिकॉज ऑफ अंडर रिलायंस ऑफ इंटरनल controls on test of controls and detailed substantive procedures performed by the auditor. Here the risk of giving wrong opinion is minimum but will lead to more detailed checking which is very time consuming, right? Next is the risk that the auditor, next what is non-sampling risk? Risk that the auditor reaches an erroneous conclusion for any reason not related to sampling risk. Non-sampling risk can never be mathematically measured. So risk that is the auditor reaches on an erroneous conclusion for any reason not related to sampling risk. Non-sampling risk can never be mathematically measured. Examples of non-sampling risk include use of inappropriate audit procedures, misinterpretation of audit evidence, and failure to recognize a misstatement or deviation. Sources of non-sampling risk are human mistakes, misinterpreting the sample results, applying audit procedures not appropriate to the objectives of the audit, relying on erroneous information, example erroneous confirmation. So these are the sources of non-sampling risk. या तो human mistakes हो सकते हैं या तो misinterpreting the sample results, applying audit procedures not appropriate to the objective of the audit, and relying on erroneous information, example erroneous confirmation. नेक्स्ट, जब आप ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स परफॉर्म कर रहे हो सैम्पलिंग से तो आपके क्या ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स होंगे? ऑडिटर शैल परफॉर्म ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स अप्रोप्रिएट टू द पर्पस ऑन ईच सेलेक्टेड आइटम. तो ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स अप्रोप्रिएट होने चाहिए पर्पस से, राइट? सो द ऑडिटर शैल परफॉर्म ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स अप्रोप्रिएट टू द पर्पस ऑन ईच item selected. If the audit procedure is not applicable to the selected item, the auditor shall perform procedure on a replacement item. तो selected item पे audit procedures applicable नहीं हो रहा है तो replacement item. अब replacement item क्या है? An example of when it is necessary to perform the procedure on a replacement item is when voided check, जैसे कि cancelled check is selected while testing for evidence of payment authorization. If the auditor is satisfied that the check has been properly cancelled such that it is do not constitute a deviation, an appropriately chosen replacement is examined. The replacement would then mean a proper and a valid check through which the payment has been made. तो यहाँ पे cancel check के बदले proper check replacement item होगा. If the auditor is unable to apply the designed audit procedures or suitable alternative procedures to a selected item, the auditor shall treat that item as a deviation from the prescribed control in case of test of control or a misstatement in case of test of detail. तो अभी आपने आइटम सेलेक्ट किया है, आप ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स अप्लाई ही नहीं कर पा रहे हो तो ऑडिटर ट्रीट करेगा वो आइटम एक डिविएशन या एक मिस statement. An example when auditor is unable to apply the designed audit procedures to a selected item is when documentation relating to that item has been lost. तो सेलेक्ट आइटम क्या है, आप अप्लाई ही नहीं कर पा रहे हो तो उसका एक एग्जाम्पल क्या होगा? डॉक्यूमेंटेशन रिलेटिंग टू दैट आइटम हैज़ बीन लॉस्ट. द डॉक्यूमेंटेशन ऑफ सेल्स इज लॉस्ट लाइक द सेल्स ऑर्डर, रिकॉर्ड, सेल्स इनवॉइस, डॉक्यूमेंट और डिस्पैच एक्सेट्रा, देन confirmation can be sought from the debtor as per SA 505 external confirmation. If it is a cash sale, cash book can be cross-verified for the existence of such transactions. An example of a suitable alternative procedure might be the examination of subsequent cash receipts together with the evidence of their source and the items they are intended to settle when no reply has been received in response to a positive confirmation request. अगर reply नहीं आया तो आप क्या करोगे? Cash receipts check करोगे. Another example of replacement of a sample could be if all transactions of computerized sales are being checked. For example, sales recorded through barcode scanner and incidentally a sample of manual bills gets selected, then such item can be replaced after adequately checking the correctness of the manual bill with the supporting documents available. If replacement item is not possible or reasonable, alternative audit procedures can be applied. So this is all about performing the audit procedure. Next is nature and cause of deviations and misstatements. If in analyzing the deviations and misstatements identified, अभी आपको deviation मिल गया है, misstatement अभी मिल गया, अभी क्या करना? Auditor may observe they may have common features, example the type of transaction, product line, or a period time. In such circumstances, auditor may decide to identify all items in a population that possess the same common feature and extend audit procedures to those items. अभी item select किया, उसके ऊपर सैम्पल प्रोसीजर अप्लाई किया, अभी डिविएशन मिल रहा है, तो जो आइटम सेलेक्ट किया उससे रिलेटेड सेम चीज़ें पॉपुलेशन में जो भी है उसको भी आप उसके ऊपर भी आप ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स लगाओगे. इन एडिशन सच डिविएशन और मिसस्टेटमेंट मे बी इंटेंशनल एंड मे इंडिकेट द पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ fraud as well. Yeah, so again revising, in analyzing the deviations and misstatements identified, the auditor may observe that many have common feature. In such circumstances, the auditor may to identify all the items in a population that possess the common feature and extend audit procedure to those items. In addition, such deviation or misstatements may be intentional and may indicate the possibility of fraud. Therefore, the auditor shall investigate the nature and causes of any deviation or misstatement identified and evaluate their possible effect on the purpose of the audit procedures on the other areas of the audit. In extremely rare circumstances, when the auditor considers a misstatement or a deviation discovered in a sample to be an anomaly, एक ही जगह पे ये anomaly है, एक ही जगह पे misstatement, the auditor shall obtain a higher degree of certainty that such misstatement or deviation is not representative of the population. The auditor shall obtain this degree of certainty by performing additional audit procedures to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence that the misstatement or deviation does not affect the remainder of the population. Anomaly may be defined as a misstatement or a deviation that is demonstrably not representative of the misstatement or deviations in the population. तो वो अकेला है, वो रिप्रेजेंट नहीं करता है मिसस्टेटमेंट और डिविएशन इन द पॉपुलेशन एज वेल. सो दिस इज हाउ यू विल एनालाइज द डिविएशन एंड मिस स्टेटमेंट. राइट, एनोमली हुआ तो ऑब्टेन करोगे एक हाई डिग्री ऑफ सर्टेनिटी दैट सच मिसस्टेटमेंट और डिविएशन इज नॉट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन.